When I think back to my high school experience, there's one particular event that I still remember to this day. It was an ordinary day, like any other, filled with classes, homework, and the usual teenage drama. It was a gloomy autumn afternoon, the kind that gives you an eerie feeling. As the final bell rang, signaling the end of the school day, I gathered my belongings and made my way to the school's entrance. The halls were emptying quickly, and I soon found myself alone, walking the deserted corridors. The usually bustling courtyard was eerily silent, the only sound being the rustling of the leaves carried by the wind. I quickened my pace, eager to get home, and escape the unsettling atmosphere. As I walked along the familiar path that led to the bus stop, I noticed a man standing by a tree, tall, unkempt, with wild eyes and disheveled hair. He seemed out of place, a stranger in our small town. Our eyes met and my heart skipped a beat. I instinctively looked away, hoping he wouldn't approach me. Just as I thought I had escaped his attention, I heard hurried footsteps behind me. I glanced over my shoulder, only to see the man walking briskly, closing the distance between us. I picked up my pace, desperately searching for a way to escape. My mind raced as I contemplated my options. Should I run? Should I scream for help? The possibilities swirled in my head, but fear paralyzed my actions. I felt like a deer caught in headlights, unable to move or make a sound. As the man drew closer, I veered off the main path, hoping to lose him in the maze of side streets. I was terrified as I sprinted through the residential area, my heart pounding in my ears. I dared not look back, fearing what I might see. Finally, I reached the house with the porch light on. Desperation took hold of me as I banged on the front door, praying that someone would answer. Seconds felt like eternity until a middle-aged woman opened the door, concern etched on her face. I blurted out the situation, gasping for breath between words. The woman, who introduced herself as Miss Thompson, immediately understood the gravity of the situation. She invited me inside, offering comfort and reassurance. As we waited for the police to arrive, Miss Thompson shared stories of her own encounters with suspicious individuals in the neighborhood. She told me to be careful and to trust my instincts. When the police arrived, they took my statement and assured me that they would investigate the incident. Mrs. Thompson kindly offered to drive me home, and I gratefully accepted. The journey was filled with a mix of relief and lingering fear, the weight of the encounter still heavy on my shoulders. In the days that followed, news circulated about a man matching the description I had provided. He had been involved in a series of suspicious activities, and the police were actively searching for him. Knowing that I avoided a potentially dangerous situation, the thought of it still scares me to this day. The experience left a lasting impact on me. I've become more paranoid ever since. I constantly question the man's intentions, not knowing what he would do to me if he ever caught me. But I'm really glad that Miss Thompson answered the door. Otherwise, I feel like I wouldn't be here right now, telling you this story. The last thing you want to hear is the words, "Lockdown. This is not a drill." It was just a regular day at school, but little did I know that it would turn into a nightmare. I sat in my classroom, listening to the teacher's lecture, when suddenly, the intercom crackled to life. The principal's voice echoed through the halls, announcing a lockdown. Panic washed over the room as we quickly moved to secure our classroom. The atmosphere grew tense as we huddled together, awaiting further instruction. Our teacher made sure to lock the door. We all huddled to the side of the wall, where we weren't visible to the door. Everybody sat there quietly, fear in their eyes, all of us straining our ears to listen. It was quiet. My heart was pounding so fast I felt like it was about to explode. Then, we heard footsteps down the hallway. Frightened, we all looked at each other, making sure that we were dead silent so the intruder wouldn't find us. Suddenly, a loud crash reverberated through the corridor. It was the sound of a door being forced open. My classmates and I exchanged terrified glances, unsure of what would happen next. We pressed ourselves against the wall, trying to make ourselves as inconspicuous as possible. The air was thick with tension, and even the slightest noise seemed deafening. We held our breaths, hoping that the intruder wouldn't discover us. But then, we heard it. The sound of a gunshot. The piercing noise echoed through the building, followed by screams of panic. The intruder had fired his weapon, and the chaos escalated. My heart raced faster, my mind filled with unimaginable fear. The classroom door handle jiggled, and my heart leaped in my throat. The intruder was trying to enter. We were trapped like cornered animals, helpless against the impending danger. Our teacher hurriedly pushed a heavy cabinet in front of the door, hoping to buy us some time. The intruder's furious banging on the door made our hearts pound even harder. He was determined to get in, and the realization sent waves of terror through our bodies. We huddled together, praying for our safety. The sound of rapid gunfire erupted through the school. The intruder's intentions were halted by the arrival of law enforcement. The police had arrived, and they were engaged in a firefight. The confrontation between the police and the intruder seemed to last forever. The deafening gunshots and the chaos that ensued outside our classroom were the soundtrack of our worst nightmares. We remained huddled together, praying for the police to overpower the intruder. Finally, the sounds of the gunfire faded away, replaced by the commands of the police officer. The intruder had been subdued, and our nightmare was over. Tears of relief streamed down our faces as we heard the officers securing the area and ensuring our safety. The lockdown was lifted, and we cautiously emerged from our hiding spot. The hallways were filled with frightening students and teachers, seeking solace in each other's presence. The reality of what just happened sank in, and a profound sense of gratitude washed over us for the protection we found. We soon discovered that the intruder killed 8 people and 2 teachers. The school community came together to heal and support one another. We attended counseling sessions, sharing our fears and emotions. It was a long process, but we slowly began to rebuild our lives and restore a sense of security. The memory of that fateful day will forever be etched in my mind. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. We were lucky to have survived, and we vowed to never take our safety for granted. Though the scars of that terrifying high school lockdown may never fully fade, we emerged stronger, united, and determined to make our school a place of safety and learning once again. As a substitute teacher, I often find myself stepping into unfamiliar classes, facing new students, and trying to establish a sense of order. But one particular day at Oakwood High School would forever remain etched in my memory as the scariest experience of my life. It started like any other day. I arrived early at the school, greeted by the usual hustle and bustle of the students in the hallway. The regular teacher had called in sick, and I was assigned to take over English class. Little did I know that this seemingly ordinary day would turn into a nightmare. As I entered the room, I was met with a curious gaze from students. They were a rowdy bunch, but I was determined to maintain control and carry out the day's lesson. The class began. Midway through the lesson, we could hear the principal's voice through the intercom. "Attention, all teachers and students. We are currently in a lockdown. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Please follow lockdown procedures immediately." Panic spread through the classroom as students hurriedly locked the doors, turned off the lights, and huddled in a corner. I did my best to remain calm and reassure them, but deep down, I was terrified. Minutes felt like hours as we waited in a dimly lit room. The sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, growing louder and louder. The tension in the air was palpable. We held our breath, straining to hear any indication of what was happening outside. The sound of banging on the classroom door shattered the silence. My body shot with adrenaline as I tried to process what was happening. The students whimpered and clung to each other, their eyes wide with fear. I mustered all the courage I had and motioned for them to remain quiet. The banging on the door intensified, accompanied by muffled voices of unfamiliar individuals. My mind raced with horrifying possibilities. Just as I feared the worst, the door swung open, and a group of police officers stormed into the room with their guns drawn. Relief washed over me as they reassured us that they were there to protect us. They quickly explained that there had been a threat in the school, but the situation was now under control. As we were led out of the classroom, I couldn't help but feel a mix of gratitude and lingering unease. The sight of police officers swarming the hallways and the sound of distant sirens only served as a reminder of the terror that we had experienced. In the aftermath of the lockdown, the school implemented increased security measures. Lockdown drills became more frequent, and safety precautions were emphasized. The incident served as a wake-up call, a reminder that the safety of students and teachers should always be a priority. As time passed, the memory of that terrifying day began to fade, but the impact it had on me and my perception of my role as a substitute teacher remained. It was a reminder of the responsibility I held in ensuring the safety and the well-being of students entrusted to my care. To this day, whenever I step into a classroom as a substitute teacher, I am reminded of the importance of being prepared for the unexpected. I may never fully forget the fear that enveloped us that day, but I am determined to do my part in creating a safe and nurturing environment for my students to learn and thrive. In the end, it's the resilience and unity in the face of adversity that gives me hope, knowing that together, as educators and students, we can overcome any challenge that comes our way.